Hi guys, what's going on? Welcome to another episode of Hockey on the Spot with Brandon Marenfeld. I'm Brandon Marenfeld. Thank you for joining me. This is episode 76 of Hockey on the Spot. This will not be a long video. Don't have that much to go over, thank God. So let's go over some of the couple things that we need to go over. Starting with an update from yesterday that I did not talk about. A couple of professional tryout signings from the American Hockey League, the Springfield Falcons and the Toronto Marlies. The Springfield Falcons have signed forward Jean-Francois Jacques to a pro tryout contract. Last time he played was in the 2011-2012 season with the Anaheim Ducks. And for the Toronto Marlies, the more important of the two, they've signed former Edmonton Oilers former Nashville Predators and former Florida Panthers forward Jared Smithson to a pro trial contract. He is an interesting one because he's always been one of the hard-working, shutdown players in the league. Jean-Francois Jacques is always more of a fighter, but Smithson, he's a hard-working guy. Obviously, his greatest career moment coming in Game 5 of the first round in the 2011 playoffs against the Anaheim Ducks, where he scored the overtime winner. So he's a guy who, when he's playing at his best, works really hard. So I could actually see him coming up at some point to the Toronto Maple Leafs, but we'll see what happens. Anyway, now going to the updates for today. The New Jersey Devils have placed forward Ryan Clough on injured reserve, retroactive to October 13th. This is a big loss for the New Jersey Devils. He was pretty much their top free agent signing as far as the contract goes, but he has yet to score a goal. He has a few assists, but he's yet to score a goal. So this is a guy who's going to have to turn his season around real quick and real fast. I mentioned this one yesterday, but I'll bring it up again, that the Tampa Bay Lightning captain Marty St. Louis is day-to-day after blocking a Drew Doughty slap shot off the foot a couple nights ago. So hopefully he can get back healthy and soon. That was in the process of having a 3-point night, 2 goals, and an assist. It has been confirmed by the Florida Panthers that goaltender Tim Thomas will be back and starting against his former team tonight. As the Florida Panthers take on the Boston Bruins tonight. That should be a fun game, seeing Tim Thomas back in action. So be sure to check that one out for all you Florida and Boston fans. Buffalo Sabres forward Patrick Kaleta has decided that he will be appealing his 10-game suspension from the NHL. He could end up getting the same, less, or more. I think this is a dumb move, honestly. I never liked the appealing thing. It's not like he's getting suspended for the entire season. That's a bit of a different story. But if you're just getting suspended for 10 games, yeah, that may sound like a lot, but just deal with it. You're going to be back soon. And it's going to go by quick, you know. But Patrick Kaleta, I really think he is making a big mistake by doing this, and it wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me if he got into some more trouble for what he's doing. And some good news for not only the Minnesota Wild, but also for other teams around the NHL. It seems like Minnesota Wild forward and former Pittsburgh Penguin forward Matt Cooke has put his past on-ice antics behind him for now and is strictly focusing on hockey. So far in 7 games for the Wild, he has 3 goals and 3 assists while maintaining a +6 rating. So he has been quite arguably the best player on the ice for the Minnesota Wild, which is great because I always thought that Matt Cooke had a lot more potential to his game. I really did. The Colorado Avalanche coach Patrick Roy has tied Mario Tremblay of the 1995 Montreal Canadiens with 6 consecutive victories to begin a head coaching career. Roy can break the record tonight as they take on their former arch rivals, the Detroit Red Wings. It should be very interesting because Patrick Roy had a huge hatred for the Detroit Red Wings as a player. It'll be very interesting to see him play them as a head coach, despite the fact that they're now in separate conferences. Montreal Canadiens defenseman Davis Trubisky will miss the next 5 to 6 months to recover from a shoulder surgery. He was pretty much the 7th defenseman for the Montreal Canadiens, but because of how thin they are on their blue line right now, they're already without Douglas Murray, and they're already without Alexei Emelin. This is kind of a huge loss for them right now. They're really thin on their blue line. They really got to stop getting injuries on their blue line. They really, really do. I hope that really does change. Tampa Bay Lightning have recalled forward Brett Connolly from the Syracuse Crunch of the American Hockey League. He was the 6th overall pick from the 2010 NHL entry draft. So we'll see how that goes. Also, as reported by Darren Dreger, the Edmonton Oilers brass is beginning to realize that the club is going to have to give up one of their young guns to solve their goaltending problems. So you guys could definitely pick out who you think will be the odd man out. Taylor Hall, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Jordan Eberle, or Nail Yakupov. Personally, I think it's going to be Nail Yakupov because he has been a huge disappointment and he is going through a sophomore jinx right now. A major sophomore jinx. So hopefully that can get done. Despite losing over $110 million since purchasing the Ottawa Senators, Ottawa owner Eugene Melnyk says that if he needs to add a piece, he will. Despite an internal cap of just over $50 million, the Sens should have plenty of rental options come the trade deadline. So we'll see how that works out. So we will see how that works out. Anyway, former Philadelphia Flyers goaltender Ilya Bryzgalov's camp with the East Coast Hockey League's Las Vegas Wranglers is over, and he's now waiting for the right NHL opportunity. Bryzgalov's agent, Rich Winter, says he has already turned down one NHL offer recently and will train at home in New Jersey until the right NHL job comes around. There is no rush. He is in great shape and ready to go when the right opportunity arises. He is training in New Jersey. Do not start getting any ideas that he is going to be a New Jersey Devil because that is not going to happen. They already have two very capable goaltenders in Corey Schneider and a Martin Brodeur, who is playing his last year in the National Hockey League, but is still has a lot of potential. And last but not least, Buffalo media is reporting that the Buffalo Sabres are seriously considering firing GM Darcy Regier sooner than later, even though they would prefer to wait until Christmas. Either way, it's believed that a change will be made, but Regier is trying to save himself with a big move. As of yesterday, the Sabres were working on a deal with the Edmonton Oilers that would send goaltender Ryan Miller, if they could re-sign him, or Thomas Vanek, and possibly both to the Oilers in a package that would bring Nail Yakupov and more to Buffalo. And recently, Nail Yakupov shot down rumors that he's interested in the KHL, which is great news. So he won't be going anywhere anytime soon. And that is all the updates for today. And with all that being said, let's now get to the most important part of the video, the games. And there's not too much to talk about. Only 2 games last night. So let's just go over them real quick, starting with the NBC Sports Network game of the night, the New York Rangers and the Washington Capitals, new division rivals of the Metropolitan Division. The New York Rangers coming out on top in this one by a final score of 2-0. It is their first matchup against an Eastern Conference team this season, and their first matchup since playing the Philadelphia Flyers in the preseason. In the preseason, they played all 3 Western Canada teams plus the Los Angeles Kings, and they only played the Philadelphia Flyers and the New Jersey Devils in the East. But for the Washington Capitals, this is the 3rd straight, going back to the playoffs, this is the 3rd straight game in which the New York Rangers and Henrik Lundqvist have shut out the Washington Capitals. Mike Ribeiro's overtime goal in Game 5 is the last goal that the Caps have scored against the New York Rangers thus far. Both of the New York Rangers' goals came in the second period, and goals coming from defenseman John Moore, who gets his first of the year, assisted by Brad Richards and Ryan McDonough. And then the captain, Ryan Callahan, scores a highlight reel goal assisted by Brad Richards and Derek Brassard. A 2-assist night for Brad Richards. And for Henrik Lundqvist, his first shutout of the season, a 22-save shutout. He was absolutely brilliant as the Rangers looked to end a dismal 3-game losing streak in which they let up 20 goals and were outscored 20-5. Just miserable. For the Washington Capitals, Braden Holtby would get the starting goal, and he actually was really good despite the loss. 34 saves and 36 shots, a .944 save percentage. Also, New York Rangers were without defenseman Michael Del Zotto for this game. He was out with the flu. Justin Falk would take his spot on defense, playing his second game of the season. The Rangers dressed 7 defensemen against the St. Louis Blues, so a huge win for them as they finally erase, again, just a terrible, terrible 3-game losing streak. One of the worst 3-game losing streaks I personally have ever seen from any team. So big congratulations to the New York Rangers. And last but not least, the other game from last night, the Calgary Flames and the Anaheim Ducks in Anaheim. First time that the Anaheim Ducks wear their actual home jerseys. They wore their alternates in their home opener and, of course, their Mighty Duck jerseys on throwback night. And for the Anaheim Ducks, their first matchup against a divisional opponent this season, and though not their best game of the year, they still come up with the win. Final score of 3-2, handing the Calgary Flames their first regulation loss this season. Anaheim Ducks goals being scored by Dustin Penner, who returned for last night's game, assisted by Ryan Getzlaf and Brian Allen. Again, Dustin Penner did not play on throwback night. He was out with an injury, but for his standards in games that he's played, this is the second straight game in which he has scored a goal. So good news for him. Then Kyle Palmieri would get not only his first goal of the season, but his first point of the season unassisted on a very beautiful play. And then the game-winning goal, Teemu Selanne finally gets his first goal of the year, assisted by Jakob Silfverberg. Silfverberg getting back on the score sheet. Though Jonas Hiller has been tremendous this season, it would be Victor Frost who would get the start in goal, and he was so good that he would end up being the game's number 1 star. 33 saves and 35 shots, a .943 save percentage. Absolutely brilliant. For the Calgary Flames, their goals coming from Lee Stempniak, who would score his second of the year unassisted. It would be a short-handed goal on a 5-minute power play that the Anaheim Ducks had. As good as they've been this season, their power play has just been terrible, which is a huge surprise because of all the talent that they boast on that roster. And then in the third period, Jiri Hudler would score his third of the year, assisted by Chris Russell and Joe Colburn. And for Chris Russell and Joe Colburn, they both get not only their first assists of the year, but for both of them, their first points in a Calgary Flames sweater. Joey McDonald gets the start in goal, and not one of his better games. 19 saves on 22 shots, an .864 save percentage. So that's a game he will be looking to have back, as he has been surprisingly tremendous to start the season. So we'll see what happens. And for the Calgary Flames, they have a big decision to make this season. What happens now to forward and 6th overall pick from this past year's draft, Sean Monahan? Does he stay or does he go? He had been absolutely tremendous up until this game. Despite a bad game last night, I think they should not be doing anything with him. And for the Anaheim Ducks, for them as a franchise, the first time in franchise history in which they have won 5 out of their first 6 games. The only game they lost was their opening game of the season in that dismal 6-1 loss to the Colorado Avalanche. So congratulations to the Anaheim Ducks. And now, folks, get ready, because now we are going to this day in hockey history from October 17th. Got a few players of note: Ken Morrow, Mario Lemieux, Doug Gilmour, and Paul Ranheim. In 1956, that was the day that United States citizen Ken Morrow was born. The New York Islanders defenseman won an Olympic gold medal in 1980, aka the Big Miracle on Ice, and in his career he won 4 Stanley Cups with the New York Islanders from 1980 to 1983. In 1989, Mario Lemieux of the Pittsburgh Penguins would go on to score his 22nd hat trick, which was a huge honor for him. And also in 1989, Doug Gilmour and Paul Ranheim, both of the Calgary Flames at the time, scored shorthanded goals just 4 seconds apart in an 8-8 tie game against the Quebec Nordiques. However, despite the tie, that would go on to set an NHL record for most shorthanded goals in consecutive seconds apart. And the shortest shorthanded goals scored consecutive seconds apart. And that will do it, folks. That'll do it for episode 76 of Hockey on the Spot. This has been Hockey on the Spot with Brandon Marenfeld. I'm Brandon Marenfeld. See you guys tomorrow. Have a great day.